Hey everyone, I'm Ozkan Erturk and let's talk about the Spanish-American War. This 10-week conflict had far-reaching consequences for Spain, Cuba, the United States and the world. It catapulted the US onto the global stage as a rising imperial power and signaled the decline of the Spanish Empire. From the USS Maine explosion to the Rough Riders' charge, uncover the details that shaped this pivotal moment. Welcome to our deep dive into the Spanish-American War, a conflict that reshaped global power dynamics. The Spanish-American War is often called a splendid little war, a catchy phrase, but one that minimizes the very real human cost of the conflict. From the declaration of war on April 25th to the armistice on August 12th, a mere 10 weeks elapsed. Military historians point to several factors for this rapid American victory. The Spanish military was plagued by outdated equipment and low morale. The United States boasted a modern navy and a growing industrial base. Public opinion, inflamed by sensationalized reporting, played a crucial role. This fervor, coupled with effective military campaigns, led to Spain's swift defeat. No event ignited American outrage and fueled the flames of war quite like the explosion of the USS Maine. On February 15, 1898, this American battleship anchored in Havana Harbor was ripped apart by a massive blast, killing 266 sailors. While the exact cause of the explosion remains a subject of debate to this day, the American public, fueled by sensationalist headlines in newspapers, quickly placed the blame squarely on Spain. Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain, became a rallying cry, capturing the raw emotion and anger that swept through the nation. This event, whether a deliberate act of sabotage or a tragic accident, pushed the United States and Spain closer to the brink of war. The sinking of the Maine became a symbol of Spanish oppression and a potent justification for American intervention in Cuba. It was a turning point, shifting public opinion decisively in favor of war. No figure embodies the Spanish-American War quite like Theodore Roosevelt. Already a national figure before the war, Roosevelt formed the Rough Riders, a volunteer cavalry regiment of cowboys, ranchers, Ivy League athletes, and Native Americans. They gained fame for their charge up Kettle Hill during the Battle of San Juan Hill. Facing intense Spanish fire, they secured a crucial victory. Roosevelt returned a hero, paving the way for his presidency. Chapter 4, Cuban Independence and the Platt Amendment. The Spanish-American War was a war for Cuban independence. For decades, Cubans yearned to break free from Spanish colonial rule. The war resulted in Spain relinquishing its claim to Cuba. However, the US imposed the Platt Amendment, controlling Cuban affairs. Chapter 5, The Invisible Enemy. While battles raged and headlines screamed of victory, a silent killer stalked American troops in Cuba disease. The Spanish-American War, though short, claimed the lives of far more American soldiers from disease than from combat. Yellow fever, malaria, typhoid, and dysentery ripped through the ranks, highlighting the woefully inadequate state of military medicine at the time. Camps, often overcrowded and lacking proper sanitation, became breeding grounds for disease. Soldiers weakened by tropical heat, poor nutrition, and inadequate medical care succumbed to these invisible enemies in alarming numbers. The high death toll from disease exposed the shortcomings of American military logistics and the need for improved hygiene and medical practices. It served as a grim reminder that even in victory, the cost of war extended far beyond the battlefield. Chapter 6, The Battle for the Philippines. While the focus of the Spanish-American War centered on Cuba, a pivotal battle thousands of miles away would have far-reaching consequences. On May 1st, 1898, in the Battle of Manila Bay, the United States Asiatic Squadron, commanded by Commodore George Dewey, engaged and decisively defeated the Spanish fleet in the Philippines. This stunning victory, achieved with minimal American casualties, sent shockwaves through Spain and the world. It also marked the beginning of American involvement in the Philippines, a chapter in history fraught with complexity and controversy. The United States, having destroyed the Spanish fleet and seized control of Manila, faced a dilemma. Should they return the Philippines to Spain, grant them independence, or claim the archipelago as their own? The decision to annex the Philippines would have profound implications, sparking a bloody war with Filipino nationalists who had long yearned for independence. Chapter 7: The Setting Sun on the Spanish Empire. The Spanish-American War, brief as it was, marked a watershed moment for the once mighty Spanish Empire. For centuries, Spain had held sway over vast territories, its reach extending across the Americas and into the Pacific. But by the late 19th century, the empire was in decline, plagued by internal strife, economic woes, and growing unrest in its colonies. The war with the United States, a rising power eager to assert its influence, exposed the weaknesses at the heart of the Spanish Empire. Defeated on land and at sea, Spain was forced to cede Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Guam to the United States in the Treaty of Paris. The Philippines, after a bitter conflict, would also fall under American control. The loss of these territories dealt a severe blow to Spanish prestige and marked the end of their colonial empire. Chapter 8: Yellow Journalism and the Drums of War. The Spanish-American War wasn't just fought on battlefields, it was also waged in the pages of newspapers. This era witnessed the rise of yellow journalism, a sensationalistic style of reporting that prioritized eye-catching headlines and emotional appeals over factual accuracy. Newspaper moguls like William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, locked in a fierce circulation war, understood the power of the press to sway public opinion. Hearst, famously declaring, "You furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war," used his newspapers to publish inflammatory accounts of Spanish atrocities in Cuba, often exaggerating or even fabricating stories to stir up anti-Spanish sentiment. This relentless barrage of sensationalized headlines, combined with public outrage over the sinking of the USS Maine, created a climate of war fever that proved difficult for politicians to resist. Chapter 9: A Series of Swift Victories. The Spanish-American War was characterized by a series of swift and decisive American victories. The United States, with its more modern navy and better equipped forces, quickly gained the upper hand in the conflict. From the Battle of Manila Bay to the capture of San Juan Hill, American forces consistently outmaneuvered and outgunned their Spanish counterparts. These victories, widely publicized in the American press, fueled a sense of national pride and reinforced the belief in American military superiority. The war, though brief, showcased the growing power of the United States and its ability to project force on a global scale. The victories also solidified the reputation of American military leaders like George Dewey and Theodore Roosevelt, further bolstering public support for the war effort. On December 10, 1898, representatives from Spain and the United States met in Paris to formally end the Spanish-American War. The Treaty of Paris, signed that day, marked the definitive end of Spanish colonization and ushered in a new era of American expansionism. Under the terms of the treaty, Spain ceded Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Guam to the United States. The Philippines, a point of contention during the negotiations, was also ceded to the US for a sum of $20 million. The Treaty of Paris had far-reaching consequences for all involved. For Spain, it represented a humiliating defeat and the dismantling of their once vast empire. For the United States, it marked their emergence as a global power with significant territorial holdings in the Caribbean and the Pacific. The Spanish-American War marked a turning point in American foreign policy. The victory over Spain and new territories ushered in an era of American assertiveness. The US embraced its role as a global power, projecting military and economic might. The Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine exemplified this assertiveness. It stated the US could intervene in Latin America to protect its interests. The Treaty of Paris may have officially ended the Spanish-American War, but it ignited another conflict, one that would prove far more brutal and protracted: the Philippine-American War. Filipino nationalists, having fought alongside American forces against Spain, believed that independence would be their reward. However, when the United States decided to annex the Philippines, Filipinos, led by Emilio Aguinaldo, took up arms against their former allies, demanding self-determination. The Philippine-American War, often overlooked in American history books, was a brutal conflict marked by guerrilla warfare, atrocities on both sides, and a heavy toll on Filipino civilians. The war lasted for 3 years, claiming the lives of thousands of combatants and civilians. The United States ultimately emerged victorious, crushing the Filipino resistance and establishing control over the archipelago. However, the war left a legacy of bitterness and resentment, raising questions about American imperialism and the true cost of their rise to global power. The Spanish-American War, though brief, cast a long shadow over the 20th century. It marked the end of the Spanish Empire, the rise of the United States as a global power, and the beginning of a new era of American interventionism. From the explosion of the USS Maine to the charge up San Juan Hill, from the Treaty of Paris to the Philippine-American War, this conflict continues to fascinate and provoke debate. It reminds us that history is complex, often messy, and rarely as simple as the headlines might suggest. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Spanish-American War. We hope you found these lesser-known facts as fascinating as we did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into history. See you next time.